All right. Shalom, shalom, everyone. Shalom, shalom. Welcome to Awake the Nations with Melek Moshe. Shalom, shalom, everyone. Shalom. Let's see if I have a reverb here. Welcome to Awake the Nations with Melek Moshe. Shalom, shalom, everyone. Shalom. Let's see if I have a reverb here. Welcome to Awake the Nations with Melek Moshe. Shalom, shalom, everyone. Shalom. Let's see if I have a reverb here. Awake the Nations with Melek Moshe. Shalom, shalom, everyone. All right, let's try it again. Let's try it again. Welcome to Awake the Nations with Melek Moshe, aka Dr. Howard. Shalom, shalom to each of you. We pray that your Erev, your evening is going splendid. Thank you for engaging me in some of the most controversial, but some of the most important conversations of our day. Some conversations, let's admit it, some conversations, mishpacha, is not easy, but we are obliged. It's incumbent upon us as the people of the book to engage in some dialogue that might not soothe us well. It might be downright uncomfortable. But these are some of the theological questions. These are some of the eschatological events that are germane to our day that you and I must have. So Awake the Nations we are obliged. We have a responsibility to speak truth amid universal deceit. And when you speak truth amid universal deceit, it is a revolutionary act. So let's take this road, take this journey with me as we traverse throughout current events, popular culture, but also as we jaywalk throughout the scriptures, and we begin to ascertain as to what is the word, the will, and the wisdom of the Most High Yah. All praises be to the Most High. So shalom, shalom to everyone. For those who are joining us, to the lost sheep of the house of Yasharel, those who are in diaspora, those who are scattered at the four corners of the earth, and then those who have a passion, a desire, and have the wherewithal to cleave unto Yasharel. We say shalom, shalom, shalom to you. Whether this is for some of you in the morning, afternoon, or evening, we say shalom, shalom. Thank you, all those who are watching us, whether you're watching us through Facebook, and I see the numbers are climbing there, or whether you are watching us through YouTube, or many of you are making your way here personal on Zoom so that we can have some very private and candid conversations about this topic. And again, I believe this topic is relevant and is germane to all. So gather your family and your friends and your children and your ish and your isha, your spouses. Grab Pookie and Ray right now, and let's have a candid conversation about AI. AI. So shalom to you. As we continue this, I want to remind all that what the Awake the Nations is, Awake the Nations with Melek Moshe, aka Dr. Howard. We are committed to fostering this environment of live teaching, live interviews, do some Hebrew fact segments where we'll talk about Hebrew facts, deal with Hebrew apologetics. How do we defend the faith? How do we defend Galatians chapter 5? How do we defend Romans chapter 10, verse 4? How do we defend Ephesians chapter 2? And it seemed like the law is done away with. So Awake the Nations is committed to dealing with some hard reach questions that is rarely answered in any faith community. So we believe that it is our assignment. We are charged to take on that assignment. And so we are just so thankful to all of our viewers, for all of those who follow us, whether it's through Great Awakening International or through Awake the Nations. We are working in solidarity. We all are working together in a collaborative sense to seek truth. Truth will make you miserable before it make you free. And so most people, they evade the truth. Many people do not gravitate to the truth. It's not that we don't have access to the truth. It's just most people do not want to hear it. Most people do not want to hear it. So we will have a closer look into Torah, what Torah says about various things, whether it's dealing with the blue that comes from an unclean animal like a snail, or is honey really clean? Or what about copulation? Can a woman attend Shabbat gathering if she's on her menses? And the list goes on, what the scripture says about divorce, and you name it. And so we'll be taking a closer look into Torah. We'll have amicable, scholarly conversations, whether we choose not to use the word debate. The word debate has such got a bad rap. So we'll be looking at some conciliatory, engaged conversations along the way. We have some very pointed panel discussions by inviting people on to Awake the Nations. We'll be looking at scripture interpretation. What is the best ways to look at the scriptures? As of late, we've been looking at Romans, the book of Romans, and to discover that Shaul or Paul did not write the book of Romans. That epistle, that letter, and it could be what we call a manoisis. A manoisis means that there were people who contributed to the writings. These were kind of scribes that contributed to the writings, much like Jeremiah, who Jeremiah did not write the book of Jeremiah. And so we have scribes. But when you look at Romans chapter 16, verse 22, I think it's glaringly obvious as to who wrote the book of Romans. Now we know Tertius wrote the book of Romans. And so we'll be dealing with some of the centuries of regurgitated dogma that has been, and we have been indoctrinated with. And we'll be confronting it to make sure that we separate the wheat from the chaff, truth from misconception. We'll be giving current news and events and whether or not it's relevant to you. Is it relevant, or is it just smoking guns? Is it just sensationalism or propaganda? We also have live street talks, and we'll be taking Awake the Nations in communities and having conversations with individuals and engaging you that way. World tours. We're looking to do some world tours. We'll
I don't want to go in a public.
We'll be working with.
I don't really want to go to a public bathroom.
I'm sorry. I had to believe Ronette. I had to mute you. Okay, shalom. I had to mute you. Praise God. So we'll be engaged into world tours. We'll be working in solidarity with Great Awakening International as we go to endeavor to go to Africa. The latter part of this month will be in the Bahamas. So Awake the Nations will be working very closely with Great Awakening to make sure that we reach the world with what I call the great news. And the great news include the Torah, the Basora, and biblical heritage. So all praises be to the Most High. Then there will be some segments we just ask Melek Moshe or ask Dr. Howard. So again, awake the nations, awake the nations, awake the nations. All praises be to the Most High Yah. So again, if you would like to sow into Awake the Nations, please don't feel obligated. But if you have it, that's what's on your heart, and you would like to sow into great Awake the Nations, that's Cash App, Awake the Nations. Awake the Nations, Cash App, Awake the Nations. All praises be to the Most High Yah. So we're really excited about that. So we're going to continue our teaching today, but I do want to remind everyone that next week we're going to take a pause in our teaching to deal with, should my family celebrate Thanksgiving? We're going to be looking at a deep historical analysis about Thanksgiving and whether or not Thanksgiving aligns with the scriptures. Dr. Howard, isn't it pure? Isn't it innocuous? Isn't Thanksgiving? It's not sinister. There's nothing pagan associated with Thanksgiving. It's just coming together and with my family, and we often eat and we watch the football game, Go Lions, on Thanksgiving, and we are engaged into this just social connectivity with family and friends, with drinks and food and fun and games, and it's a time for family to engage into communal capacity. Dr. Howard, there's nothing sinister about that. No, you're taking it too far. So stay tuned for next week. Next week, November 18th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are going to talk about the truth of Thanksgiving. Is Thanksgiving really pagan? Is it really pagan? Or Dr. Howard, are you reaching? Is it really has a syncretic background? Or is this just something where, Dr. Howard, you are conspiratorial? Let's stay tuned next week, and we're going to find out whether or not Thanksgiving is pagan. Now, why do I deal with this topic? This is one of the topics that many in the awakening, as I do look at the social analysis of our people, as we begin to look at the human sciences and just look at how people respond psychologically, mentally, socially. This is one of the last holidays. Did I say that? Did I give it away? This is one of the last holidays that most people struggle with because there's some nostalgia associated with it. It's easier to give up for Christmas for most than to give up Thanksgiving, largely because they don't see that there is anything sinister about it. There's nothing, Dr. Howard, that will that violates the scripture. And unfortunately, as a result, we become ultra crepidarians. So in one mouth, we say that we are Torah observant, but yet we are practicing what we call monolatrous kenotheism. Monolatrous kenotheism. So we'll be looking at that a little closer as we develop some traction along the way. All right. So we'll give some other people some time to come in. Meanwhile, please just watch this.
Robot that seems to be able to jump and spin and do things that most human beings can't even do. Well, it's getting a lot of buzz online. The video's gone viral showing what may be the future of robots. What is it? RT correspondent John Huddy has the story for us.
It's called Atlas, and it was developed by the tech company Boston Dynamics. The robot stands 4'9" and weighs 176 pounds, but it has the agility and nimbleness of a professional gymnast, rolling, jumping, and spinning. The video posted September 24th and already has more than 3 million views. Boston Dynamics writes, "We created the maneuvers using new techniques that streamline the development process. First, an optimization algorithm transforms high-level descriptions of each maneuver into dynamically feasible reference motions. The robot then tracks the motions with what's called a model predictive controller, thus developing a routine, quote, significantly faster than previous Atlas routines. Translation, it's faster, stronger, and better." Boston Dynamics is known for creating robots that mimic humans and animals, like Spot here. Cool, but also kind of creepy. This video from 2016 shows an older version of Atlas marching through snowy woods. Just imagine hundreds or thousands of them, kind of like the droid army from the Star Wars Phantom Menace movie. Steady. Back to the Atlas robot and video. One YouTube user describes a fictitious conversation going like this. Boston Dynamics employee, "Hey pal, how are you today?" Atlas, "I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle." Sound familiar?
"I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle."
For now, Atlas doesn't ride a motorcycle or wear clothes. It also doesn't have the artificial skin that some companies are already in the process of developing for robots. That's for a later story. To quote the Terminator, I'll be back.
It's cute. I look at those videos and it's kind of fun to watch. And you start thinking, wow, that's really cool. Is there another side to it that we should be thinking about?
By design. Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Why does a robot have to look like a man? Why does it have to have legs and arms and a head and jump? Because by design, they want the robot and you to relate as something you know. Remember during our era of Lost in Space, Andrew Will Robinson,
Yeah.
R2D2,
Yeah.
the lovable robot.
Right.
Now imagine that has 50 caliber machine guns or lasers. It's not cute anymore.
As holiday shopping ramps up, you may see more robots and drones delivering packages. We've heard about this. The same-day bot is a new device from FedEx that is already roaming the streets of New York. But if you get in trouble or family arguments get a little too rowdy at the Thanksgiving table, there's a robot you do not want to see. Check out this video from a TechCrunch conference. Here's a Boston Dynamics robot tested with the Massachusetts State Police. Now, the company CEO says the robot can open doors and it will be controlled by an officer in a safe location. The idea is it can be used for dangerous situations, such as a hostage negotiation. But I have to wonder, does it stop there? Well, to talk more and we turn to legal and media analyst Lionel. Lionel, I watched this video and sure, it looks really cool and really much advanced in tech, but I just have to think of movies like Terminator and Doomsday and all of these horrible things where robots literally take over our lives. So as a citizen, I just have to wonder, what are your rights if a law enforcement robot and not a human cop knocks on your door, just like the video we just saw?
Well, first, if I could, can we back up just a second and stop saying robot?
Okay.
I know we're saying, no, I mean, not, that's what we call it. Robots don't bother me. Robots are great. Robots are terrific. Robots are robots. Artificial intelligence, that's the story. And by the way, you notice how these things are made to look like dogs? You know, they don't have to. These can be battering rams. These could actually be far better equipped to do a better job if they had multiple arms. But the reason why they're doing this is to habituate you and condition you through this wonderful world called the uncanny valley to let you know that this is just a little dog, Scotty. This is cool. This isn't anything to be afraid of. Sophia, the robot is going to look nice with a face and a smile and batting eyes. This is deliberate. So to your original question, this is merely an extension of the police. So if the police can't do something in person, they can't do something through the extension of a robot or whatever. Scotty, here's what I'm afraid. What happens when we then allow these to be programmed via artificial intelligence or artificial general intelligence so that these are not sent in to get the bad guy? But Scotty, what if they're allowed to patrol, to pull people on their own, to learn the behaviors of certain people? Could they be profiling? Would certain ethnicities be more prone to being stopped? Or if you realize we've made a mistake, Scotty, can you bring them back? Artificial intelligence is basically programs itself. Robots are programmed by people, but AI is programmed by AI. It may not be able to be drawn back. The first thing they're going to do is replicate themselves. See, this is what nobody wants to talk about. People like Ben Goertzel and Ray Kurzweil make it sound so cool and neat, never talk about this runaway train called AI.
Well, and that's the thing, you think this looks very sci-fi. I know there's movies and books that have been written that exactly as you describe happening, and you go, that could never happen. But we look at the advances of technology, and it might not happen today, might not happen tomorrow, but for the next generation or 2 or 3 generations down the road, it could be truly believable. And the creators of the Spot robot want to make sure they won't be used to harm or intimidate people. However, the police are already starting to use them in dangerous situations. So how can we guarantee they physically will not attack someone either now or in the future?
Oh, I love when they say that our intention is that this never gets out of control. Remember one thing, another one of Lionel's laws, Scotty, if you're reading about it now, it's 5 years old. This is already old. You've already got this. This is already done. And by the way, Boston Dynamics, who owns that? Who bought that? Google Plus, Google, DARPA. I mean, this idea, keep in mind who these players are and who these people are. But you ask a very good question, which is what I'm saying. Can we stop these? Can you basically take your, delete that app or say, all right, that's enough, cute little dog. Now you're going in and you're doing things on its own. What if this little cute dog right now, or whatever you think this thing is, on its own, Scotty, feels that that police or resources have not been used aggressively enough? Now, let me just say that. What if this artificial intelligence on its own, this FIDO spot, whatever you want to call it, decides that they have to up the notch, not necessarily programmed to understand or appreciate the Constitution, Terry against Ohio, Fourth Amendment, things like that. How do we call them back? And what do we do after they've already replicated themselves through other means? That's the issue.
I think we should be very careful about artificial intelligence. If I were to guess at what our biggest existential threat is, it's probably that. I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know all those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, you sure you can control the demon? Doesn't work out.
I think that the artificial intelligence will evolve to the point where they will truly be our friends. Do you want to destroy humans? Please say no.
Okay, I will destroy humans.
No, I take it back. Don't destroy.
All right, Ms. Baha, as you can see, I wanted to show you, just to get us started tonight, I wanted to show you a video and really talk about this AI and the potential dangers of the AI. And we as Israelites, Torah observant people, how does that affect us? Does it have any impact on us? Is it associated with what we call the, let me change this here. I'm going to change your screen here, Ronette. There we go. All right, thank you. All right. So is it, what does artificial intelligence have to do with us? Is it relevant? Is it germane, Dr. Howard? Let's talk about it. All right, let's talk about it, and let's talk about it in detail. Can we control this AI? Is this AI going to be merged with the human anatomy? Is AI will it take on this phenotypical, as we see, and we'll show as we develop some traction in this teaching. And it's no more a teaching. This is more of a dialogue that I want to engage. That's why I'm inviting some of you on Zoom, and we'll be watching closely the other outlets to engage individuals in a healthy dialogue. So this is not what we call frontal teaching. This is more of a collaborative approach to, I believe, one of the most pivotal conversations of our day, and is how do we traverse, how do we navigate through AI? Is AI really sinister, Dr. Howard? Is it really that nefarious? After all, we use AI in everything. Our lives are centered around artificial intelligence. It's centered around biometrics. In fact, that's why many of you have iPhones, and you have to show your facial, they recognize your facial recognition in order to open up your device, or your voice, right? The Alexa, Siri, they all now speak and they recognize your voice. So, and then what about your fingerprints, right? I started with fingerprints, so they got your fingerprints. So we developed some progression, and we recapitulate what we talked about last week, we're going to see that this even takes on our likeness phenotypically. And when we develop this, build this support to augment your understanding about what AI is, and then we begin to look at language. So we're going to look at what we call textual and literary criticism. And we begin to look at what that word image is. Because remember, Revelation chapter 13, Revelation chapter 14 talks about in the mark of the beast, and the image is his name. That's it. the word image. So Dr. Howard, is it possible for your hypothesis to be confirmed and you to draw a symbiotic relationship between image and artificial intelligence? And I believe that when we decode, and I don't like that term, but when we begin to look at the scriptures with investigatory methods, I think we see some things that is truth hidden in plain sight. I'm very leery about eschatological sensationalism, particularly if you are a spiritual practitioner, if you are a leader in any faith community, and you are willing and dealing it, you are impulsively and frivolously throwing out this knee-jerk reaction. It's dangerous because people are going to hinge on your every word. And so if you're throwing things out there, people are going to take you at your word. That's why us as leaders, spiritual practitioners, we are going to be judged more severely. And this is why the psalmist says that when the leader believes lies, all the people become wicked. So we must research, we must use investigatory methods in order to bring to light some pivotal things. So before we recapitulate, and we will, and there's no way we're going to finish tonight, because I do want to engage you, but we'll come back on the 25th to deal with this topic. Remember again, on the 18th, we'll be dealing with Thanksgiving. Some of you may have heard the teaching last year. We have some additional material we want to share that really digs and excavate and look at the historicities of what we call Thanksgiving today. And nothing has changed. What you will find, and I don't want to be anticlimactical, but what you're going to find is that it's probably much more a cesspool than what you can ever imagine. Okay. All right. So one of the things that we engaged tonight, I was thinking about research and the Ruach HaKodesh. I believe that research and yielding to the Ruach HaKodesh is going to be our greatest commodity. And let me get on my soapbox before I begin, if you just grant me that latitude to do so. The greatest travesties of our generation, I believe, are the lies that people believe even when the truth is in plain sight. I've been quoted a myriad of times that the illiterate for the 21st century will not be individuals that cannot read or write, but there are those individuals who cannot unlearn all the lies being told to them. So I get a lot of, obviously, a whole high-profile leader. You probably get your share of attacks. In fact, it's my assignment is the only assignment I wouldn't trade for the world, but wish on my worst enemy. Right now, someone is saying something negative about me or Awake the Nations or Great Awakening International, and it comes as part of the course. It comes along with the territory. The spotlight and the heat are synonymous. You can't have one without the other. If you want to be in the spotlight, you've got to endure the heat. And so there have been many individuals who have, said, Dr. Howard, we don't need all that education. And so when they immediately, some of the individuals who are retractors, they will say, well, Great Awakening is all about knowledge. They don't got the Ruach. It's like this Christian understanding. But you don't got the Ruach. I believe that there must be a balance in the awakening. There must be information and inspiration. And when you have all information and no inspiration, you dry up because there's no life. But then there's settings and context where there's all inspiration, but there's no information, and they blow up. But when you have information and inspiration together, you don't dry up, you don't blow up, you grow up. So I believe there's a balance. And I think Messiah said that Abba is looking, he's seeking those who will worship him and emit emet and in ruach, and ruach and emet, in spirit and in truth. And so I'm going to show you that this knowledge is important. We have to begin to use interrogatories, rigorous research, shrewd scholarship, because let's face it, that's why we're in this situation now. We perish because of a lack of knowledge. And our people oftentimes we can develop this slave mentality, this slave disposition, this Du Boisian two-ness, this double consciousness that says, well, you know what? We don't need all that knowledge. We got to be what we call tradition zero, tradition one people. We just need the Ruach. That's all we need. And that's why our people having the Ruach for years still has been in ignorance, or should I say willful ignorance. And so it's time for us to awaken from our slumber. It's time for us to awaken out of the oasis of what we call regurgitated dogma. So I believe, and I'll get off my soapbox in a moment, I believe that we live in a day, Mishpaha, where, speaking in regards to AI, an age of technological advancement that has dominated almost every aspect of our lives. Every iota of our lives have been impacted by this artificial intelligence. And I think what is probably most perhaps impressive is perhaps is that this powerful technological breakthroughs, right? Particularly in recent years, that have really, I think, improved, many people would say, Dr. Howard, it improved the quality of life. Think about it. Your voice assistance of self-driving cars. Some of you now have refrigerators that tell you when you're running low on milk. And the list goes on. So it makes the quality of living, it augments it, it improves the quality of living. And so I think questions arise regarding, I think, the implications of, number one, our faith. And particularly, this is specific to the Hebraic community. Now, that doesn't exclude anyone else. So we do want to be more inclusive, because I believe it affects us all, not just those who are the super brew, but also Pookie and Ray Ray and them on the block. So let's have a thought-provoking conversation, shall we? A thought-provoking conversation and dialogue where I think we're going to answer some questions. I think some of those questions that need to be answered, in addition to what we talked about last week, is what does the Bible really say about artificial intelligence? And I kind of gave you a sneak peek already, but if we go dive deep into the language, I think what textual and literary criticism will yield to us is that, yep, undeniable, Dr. Howard, the scripture, when it mentioned image, when it mentioned certain Greek terms, alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, psi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, upsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega. And then we go to the Tanakh and we begin to look at Hebraic text and ancient and say, yep, even in the Aleph top, you're right, Dr. Howard. I think it's going to be, the results are going to be pretty conclusive, that the Bible has a lot to say about artificial intelligence when we approach the Bible through biblical jurisprudence. I think we also need to begin to look at, I think in some regards, is why are some theological or technological, I should say, experts, why are they sounding the alarm? People like Elon Musk against the rise of artificial intelligence. Why is he saying, pump the brakes? We just saw him now in the video I showed a couple minutes ago about him saying that it really is associated with demonology. And that's kind of really that kind of the linchpin, right, in the centrality of this teaching. Is this teaching, I mean, is artificial intelligence, is there somehow, is it symbiotic, is it associated, is it embiotic to the mark of the beast and the Antichrist and other end time events? And so, do artificial intelligence fulfill Bible prophecy? I think we answered some of that last week. So I want you all to go on this journey with me because I think we need to go through an exploration, all right, of number one, I think relevant biblical passages. Let's look at some relevant biblical passages like Daniel chapter 7, Daniel chapter 12. Let's begin to look at that, how knowledge will increase. Let's get some relevant biblical passages and see if we can fully use exegetical analysis and use the hermeneutical process from a Hebraic lens and see whether or not is what we experience in today through artificial intelligence, does the Bible have something to say about it? And then we have to look at, I think, some Hebraic interpretations. That is the ancient interpretation that is somewhat antiquated or archaic. What does it say about modernity? And then I think we need to have some ethical reflections, because this walk isn't about just attaining knowledge. This is not about just intellectuality. This is about how do we integrate this information into our life. That's why Hebrew is concrete, is logic, block thinking, opposed to Greek. Greek is more abstract. So that's why Mashiach said, if you love me, you do what? You keep my commandments. Love is not just a mushy fuzziness, that stimulate the emotive being. The Hebraic walk is about how do you apply what you learn. For instance, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. Well, how can people who are descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and David, how can they be void of knowledge? They knew Torah. They were not void of Torah, but they rejected. That's where we get the word knowledge. Knowledge, my people perish for lack of knowledge. That's an Indo-Germanic term. Know means to acquire information. Leche, that word means literally in the Indo-Germanic language lexicon, it literally means to act upon. So knowledge in that sense means to act upon what you know. So our people knew Torah, but they didn't act on what they know. Well, let's see if the scriptures confirm that. My people perish for a lack of knowledge. Watch this. And because they reject the knowledge. So therefore, I'm going to reject them and their children's children. So it's not that we don't know what to do, we just reject what to do. So whether we are a person in the awakening who's just curious about, Dr. what are the implications of AI? Listen, let's cut to the chase. I need to know the implications. I need to prepare me and my family. Or maybe you are AI enthusiast. All right. Let me mute somebody again. What are the implications, everybody? All right. Thank you. Toda. Thank you, Ak. I appreciate it. And so you can be either just a person in the awakening or a AI enthusiast. And you just want to know, hey, I just tune in because I want to see how my faith intersect with this whole idea of artificial intelligence. All right. So I think some of the things we're going to say is going to be controversial. I know that is my goal to get to talking about many of you are engaged in unknowingly, unbeknownst to you, in shamanism. So when you talk about what shamanism, we talked about what is shamanism. So shamanism is the ability to alter the scale of consciousness in order to talk to a dead loved one, someone who's gone on, right? And I think we got to be careful because the Bible does, by and large, do honor ancestors. That's why many of us talk about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? So there is remembering our ancestry. But I think with artificial intelligence, if we're not careful, then we'll begin to tread upon that rope, that fine rope between honoring ancestry and shamanism. And then this is why Saul got in trouble as well, as the image of, there it is again, the image of, and I'm giving it away too early, the image of Samuel came back, was conjured up by the witch of Endor, and as a result, Saul is now having this experience with Samuel, who is already dead. I'm trying not to peek too early, to begin to look deep into what artificial intelligence is and what impact it has on us. But first, I got to show you how it is germane and it is very relevant. Remember, we're going to deal with relevant biblical passages. We're going to deal with interpretations, whether you want to see theological or more of a Hebraic worldview or biblical worldview. And then we have to deal with ethical reflections. We got to begin to reflect on this. Let's talk about this. Let's engage into these conversations. And so I think some conversations are going to be very controversial. Many of you have avatars. I put that in the same category as I put chicken. You all know my views of chicken. I don't need to say that, but I don't superimpose that on anyone else. Or whether chicken is clean or not. I put that in the same category as anybody ever heard of tonsure? Sometimes they say it's tonsuri, but it's tonsure of many of our Hebrew women wear this, not just synthetic hair, which is kills your cells and all of that, but they wear human hair. And many of the hair they wear has been sacrificed to idols, right? But you mentioned that, our community go ballistic. It's almost like changing the pH balance in a fish tank. The fish go crazy. So I yield on those things unless, I want to fight on my hands, which I never shy, bring a knife to a gunfight. But for the sake of peace, we'll leave that alone. Avatars is another one. That's the third one, that, because on social media, my avatar is my birthday and and all type of expressions, right? So I think it's really massaging us and conditioning us for what is to come. And if you can have your image, again, the image is the number, and the image is his name. The name, the character is associated with the image of the beast. We'll get to it momentarily. That means this beast must take on human characteristics. It's a system, but it must take on human characteristics. It's what we call anthropomorphism. Anthropomorphism. It must take on anthropomorphic systems and a nature that mimics anthropology, humans. All right, so let's get to our teaching, back to our teaching, everyone. Let's get back to our teaching.
Robot.
All right, so we've been talking about artificial intelligence. I'm going to recap. We'll try to finish up some things from last week, and then we will come back on the other side of hopefully the hour, and we'll deal with some new stuff. And I pray that we'll begin to answer some of the questions we talked about before, So, all right, let's share my screen and let's get everything started. Shalom, shalom. Thank you all for tuning in. Hallelujah. All right, everybody. So artificial intelligence, we've been talking about this. I'm going to recapitulate, which means I'm going to recap. And so I'm going to go through these very, very fast. Pardon me. I'm going to go through these extremely fast so that we can get to some of the information we didn't cover last week. And then we'll engage each of you all in, I think, a dialogue. All right. So I believe, of course, we live in a generation of intelligences, everyone. And so this is emotive intelligence we talked about. It's creative intelligence. And I think it's now have we are now on the dawn of artificial intelligence. So one of the things that happens, if you're reading it now, if we're looking at it now, that means it's 5 years old. Already we're 5 years behind some of the most basic common artificial intelligence that designers and experts and technological experts, they know now. We are already behind the 8 ball, everyone. So we need to begin to look at it, right? Computer science, designing systems and so on and so forth. I think we talked about last week, we answered some very basic questions, and I'll skip through all this here or deal with that. I think we answered some very basic questions, and we begin to look at this very in detail, right? Because we know computer science, there's development in that, there's designing of computers and machines that look just like human beings. That's the whole idea of the image of the beast. Right? And we'll deal with that momentarily. So when we look at, technologists, from their perspective, they think it's an exciting time because this is transforming society. Think about how easy things are. I can be in a whole different state and open up my garage. Right? We talked about IoT last week, the Internet of Things. I can be some amazing things in smart house, and everything is computer operated. But what happens when those systems turn on you? This is conditioning us to trust the system. So that's why we talked about predictive programming last week. When you look at iRobot with Will Smith and et cetera. Eventually, this technology that is influenced by demonology is going to turn on us. So we asked some questions, and the question we asked is artificial intelligence going to be the Antichrist? We also begin to ask, if I can get to it, sorry, this is not operating like I want to. Oops. All right. Let's do it this way. Let's do it the old-fashioned way. All right. So what is artificial intelligence, AI, commonly known as AI, referred to about? What does it tell us about the last days? So I think we took some time looking at that. We began to look at some biblical prophecies and to build at least some ground as to why are we talking about end times. So I don't think we need to continue to look at that because I think we spent a lot of time looking at that in detail, and encourage you to go and look at the nearly 70 biblical end time events that will occur. So we mentioned Jeremiah chapter 23. Again, we recapitulating everybody. We kind of summarizing what we went over to bring everybody up to snuff. But it said the age of anger of Yahuwah, that is an end time judgment. Now, Maury James did an excellent teaching today. Please go to YouTube and watch it on the day of Yahuwah. Your King James Bible will say the day of the Lord. And we know that it is judgment. It is judgment. And so that's why we have to walk this thing out. Let me say this to everybody. All right. Let me pause to say this. I think we have indubitably, we have embraced the practice of Torah. But I think as a community, just my analysis, I think we're void of the principles of Torah. We fail to make the principalizing connection. And that's where you and I struggle at. Coming back to our heritage, understanding the rightful and the correct lens of the scriptures now, because now we've seen it through the lens of not some compromised religious hyper grace, but now we've seen everything through the laws, everything through the instructions of the Most High. I think we get an A for effort, but we got a long ways to go because we embrace the practice, but we miss the principle. When we read Vairika, when we read Leviticus, Leviticus is a liturgical book, right? It has 90% of the book deals with how to prepare the sacrifice. Only 10% deal with the presentation. And I think we got the presentation down pat. We got to show up for Shabbat gathering and develop an assembly on Shabbat. Wear zitzios, wear fringes, wear head wraps. All of the jargon that comes along with this, the little Hebrew that we think we know. Everything is Tob and Khan and Ahabatah, and so we have a very selective range of language, and we get an A for effort. I think we embrace the practice, but we miss the principle. An example, the Most High say, hey, Abram, I want you to go and take your son, Isaac, and sacrifice him. Well, if you embrace just the practice of that, you would take your firstborn and try to, but what is the principle behind it? The principle is the Most High don't want you to have any allegiance that's greater than him. That's the principalizing concept that you and I should extrapolate out of that. Or do not mix wool and linen together. Well, we know, you all heard our teachings, that wool and linen are super fabrics. They have the frequency of like 5,000, right? They're super high. And so it's different from polyester, different from cotton, different from spandex and any other type of material that we wear that have a low frequency. So it doesn't augment health in our body, but it's not going to, how the Most High made us, the framework in which he built our biology, it overcomes that. But when you mix wool and linen together, you mix those two together, what happened? They cancel each other out, right? So you would say the practice is, I'm not going to wear wool and linen because the Most High told me don't to do it. Great, yay, great job for you. But the principle is not just don't wear those, but I should abstain from anything and everything that doesn't augment health in my body. Whether it's my dietary habits, whether it's some involvement that would be anything that will not perpetuate healing in my human anatomy, my physiology, I should avoid. See how the principalizing point and concept out of that is crucially important. And I think that even, you can operate just like the Pharisees. They knew Torah, they practiced Torah, but they failed at understanding the principles of Torah. The last one, what is the purpose of the Shabbat? The Shabbat is just this, and it's about rest and all that. And in a loose sense, you're correct. But Hamashiach said in Yochanan and John, as he had this very in-depth conversation, one of the longest conversations he had, in fact, with the religious figures, particularly the Pharisees, because they added 39 additional things to do on the Shabbat. And he said, you missed it. He said, and watch this, even David, when David was hungry after being 3 days in the field, what's that, 2 Chronicles? He went into the temple on the Shabbat and he ate shewbread and he broke the law lawfully. What you talking about, Willis? How can David break the law lawfully? Now, we don't want to deal with the priesthood of David because David was a priest as well. Not just a king, but a priest, but not under the Aaronic Levitical priesthood. But that's a whole different conversation. But what was the principle behind it? In fact, Messiah goes on to say, even the Father, Abba, is working on the Sabbath. They say, you're blasphemous. This is heretical. He's an apostate. What is he talking about? He said, Abba is working to redeem mankind. That's the etiology. That's the whole purpose of the Shabbat. It's redemptive. That's why Yahushua said, if your ass, your donkey, is in a ditch on the Shabbat, you get them out because it's about redemptive work. To redeem your body because you're working vigorously for 6 days. So the Most High want to redeem your body, redeem your mind, redeem your psyche, redeem humanity, redeem nobleness, redeem. I think I was muted just now. No, I didn't. See how AI works? It just muted me. All right. So you can see that the principle of Shabbat is redemption. And we do the practice of it. The practice is, I gotta, I'm just gonna not work, and I'm going to go and fellowship among the Kodashim, and until we make it more religious. Because if you embrace the practice, but you miss the principle, whatever you're doing is going to be short-lived. If you want longevity, embrace the principle and not just the practice. Because we're good at the presentation, but we're very poor in the preparation. We're good at the recital, but we're very poor in the rehearsal. All right. Let's try not to have any of those trails. All right. Let's get back to this here. All right. So we talked about this here, and we talked about that his end time judgments will not turn back until he execute or perform the thoughts of his heart. So that means we got to begin to look at scripture very seriously. We began to look at 2 Thessalonians, and we talked a little bit about why Shaul, talked about the son of prediction, that of course is going to be someone of a prominent figure that's going to come on, a leader that's going to come on the world stage, and that's going to influence us all. Well, that was our former understanding. That may be some of your understanding now. Dr. Howard, it is a man, unequivocally, without question, irrevocably is a man. And what I said is you have a right to believe what you want to believe. But perception unchallenged become reality. We may have to challenge your perception somewhat. Challenge your perception. All right, that's how you grow. All right, that's how you grow. So we talked a little bit about the Antichrist, and please go and refer to last week's teaching, and that there's a difference between the Antichrist and the Antichrist. It's one with a capital A, one with a small a. And as in a Hebraic tongue, we say the anti-Hamashiach or Hamashiach. So is the Messiah. Christ is I don't want to bust your bubbles, but Christ is relatively, Christos is a pagan term, but nobody wants to hear that. So we begin to see there's several antichrists. We said also that we believe that perhaps the Antichrist, based on the biblical narrative and based on just critical thinking, may be part human and perhaps part machine as well. So we looked at that. Could this being, whoever it is, be part technological and part human? I think we traversed through that last week, and we kind of dealt with that. And so we do know that there's going to be many deceivers who do not acknowledge Yahushua HaMashiach, who is coming in the flesh, right? Stay tuned to that, because that's going to be key. And you're going to say, Dr. Howard, this is brilliant how you're going to tie it back to all the feast days, and you're going to tie it back to all of the narratives that happen in the Tanakh. We're going to take you through the Stone Age all the way to the prophets in the Iron Age and show you artificial intelligence is not something new. It has become known to us. Man has now entered into the discovery of AI, but AI has been around a long time. So we know it's part human, part machine. We talked about that last week. We also talked about the future soldier. It's going to be part human, part machine. And we looked at an article by Katie Thompson, and how this is going to be, as I grew up, like watching the $6 million man, Lee Majors, I believe his name was. I'm dating myself a little bit. But the bionic man, bionic woman, well, this was predictive programming. They told us what was coming. For those who are in Generation X, Generation Y, you may know it as the Terminator, right? Played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? So we saw this assimilation really in the integration of technology, right? This is what we call assimilated knowledge from artificial intelligence. So it enters into what we call a human fabric. And it kind of is predictive, right? Or what we call advanced cybernetic. And I think I just showed the prosthetic limbs, right? So it's in your flashlights now, it's in drones now. Nanotechnology can read the mood you're in and play the music based on your mood. You don't have to say anything now because it's going to be connected to, we'll look at synapses. I think we looked at last week. We have firing electronic synapses in our brain. And if you can connect computers to that, there you are. You have something that is half technological and part anthropological, which is human. Now, this is why when you read in Revelation, how many people will, be shot in the head, but he's going to recover. What human can recover for being wounded in the head and recover from that? Right? But again, don't get fixated on a person as much as a system. A system. Many of you remember Dick Tracy, right? The comic book. It was one of my favorites. The smart watches. I never thought that we'll be living in an era where now we have smart watches. Right? When you look at and this comic reality is always going to bear and make way for technological advances. It's always going to happen. So what you think is impossible, it's always going to come forth. So we look at predictive programming, and I'm moving fast here. We looked at that last week, and we talked about that, and that predictive programming is a subtle form of psychological conditioning provided by the media to acquaint the public with planned societal changes to be implemented by our leaders. And if and when these changes are put through, this is really what we call Machiavellianism, everybody, or the Hegelian dialectic, as I teach my students at the college. But this is information that we all have become familiarized with, but it's conditioning us. So that guess what happened? That through this natural progression, it's going to be lessening the possible public resistance and commotion. Why? If our children have saw, what is the name of this? I should know it. The game that our children play that is a shooting game. Think about it. They have saw 300 million people die already, and it's conditioning them. So when they see massive carnage around us, they're like, okay, I'm used to seeing it. So this is witchcraft. That's why it's called television. It's telling you a vision. It's programming you. That's why television series are called programs. It's programming you. It's conditioning you. So there will be less public resistance and commotion when it happens, because you have already been massaged and already been conditioned to believe it. So we looked at that, right? We looked at it through through whether it's Star Wars, whether it's the Matrix. The Matrix is telling you the whole system. So Plato often say that, and I'm not endorsing Plato, just I think something he said is very relevant. I talked about the allegory of the cave. And that when you get a chance, everybody look up the allegory of the cave, which I think is important, because I liken that unto the awakening. We're trying to wake everybody up, say, hey, you know what? We've been lied to. And what happens in many people in Christianity? They are lulled back to sleep, or they don't want to hear you. And so you feel like you're Noah. You're crying out, and nobody wants to listen. And you become discouraged, you become rejected, you become isolated, and that thrill is gone. But after a period of time, you now get this reassurance. It's part of my book, The Stage of the Awakening. And so we've been conditioned, everyone, conditioned through cartoons, the Jetsons and Simpsons, and Inspector Gadget, right? You can do everything. Inspector Gadget, we thought, man, Inspector Gadget can do everything. He was a little goofy, All right, but for the most part, the technological advances of that day, and there's nothing that what happened then that we can't do now. His coat, all the gadgets he had, etc. All right, so we see that, and the list goes on in terms of that. So we talked a little bit about that. We talked about the kind of the artificial intelligence and the predictive programming that happens even with the Simpsons and others. That's really is predictive. It's telling you exactly what's going to happen. Who would have? You look at Bruce Jenner. Who would have thunk this year? Well, this is predictive programming. In fact, you have mentalists. I was watching. I'm a big, I watch sports a lot, and so I was just watching. Was it Baltimore Ravens? Maybe it was Kansas City Chiefs. No, it was Cincinnati Bengals. They just had a mentalist there, and he was basically the quarterback. Of course, it went to LSU. I should know his name, but he, they was telling this mentalist was telling him everything he was thinking, and so on and so forth. And even at the University of Michigan here, their football team with Jim Harbaugh, same thing. This mentalist came in, and so this is predictive programming, folks. Of they know. And so that's why we got to be very careful of what we entertain. We may entertain all type of species unaware. Who would have thought concerning Kobe Bryant? He's in Comedy Central. They predicted a plane crash episode way before it happened. This is predictive. This is technology, folks, that emanates human thought. And we have seen that. All right. So artificial intelligence, we went through it quickly and said it's technology that emanates human thought to solve problems like in human intellect, but it's man-made. It's artificial. The intellect is real, but the creation is artificial. But we won't be able to distinguish, or bring a demarcation between what is reality and what is artificial. Where now the two are going to be merged. What is Shaul? Shaul said, I didn't know if I was in the Ruach or in the flesh. We are now entering into that stage where we don't know whether or not we are in with the metaverse, that reality, or in reality. This is why even the very elect will be deceived, because you're going to be thrust. That's why you got to be careful of the programs. And again, I'm not being judgmental. I choose not to criticize, but to cultivate. That's what real leaders do. We got some help, because I understand. I'm not saying that we should, go get Torah, put a prayer shawl on over our heads, go to a wall and rock all day long, 24/7. I'm not suggesting that. But we love these Netflix movies. We love these sitcoms. We love Tubi. We love all of these things. We watch movies and movies and movies and movies and movies and movies. And I'm not saying that there's no entertainment value in it. But what Melek Moshe is saying is that you got to be careful, because it is conditioning you. Now, all of a sudden, you don't want to pray like you don't have this fervor to pray. All of a sudden now you have no desire to get into the scriptures. You have no desire to live a life of asceticism. Why? You cannot entertain darkness and not become a byproduct of the very darkness that you entertain. Be very careful with that, everyone. So we see it through Siri and Alexa, right? We have seen this AI software that has been in our face. This has been conditioning us, right? So it listens how you process information, how you speak. So this is not futuristic, everybody. This is advancing at a rapid pace now, right? So many of you got virtual assistants of, when it comes to energy efficiency, our lighting, anything to save us money. See, it's almost where it's not giving you a choice, because many of you don't have the resources to stay in the archaic, old-fashioned way of doing things. Hey, you want to save money? Switch to this. And so this is gradually pulling you into this reality, because it's going to make your home smarter. It's going to make your lives easier. And who don't want an easier life? So we talked about really quickly two major subdivisions. The specific AI is good. I mean, I won't say good, but it's no real harm, no real foul if you use it selectively. Okay. So again, AI isn't evil. It's how you use AI. And I believe it's being used to garner, it's being used to pull us into the mark of the beast and to be more susceptible without any retort to what we call the Antichrist or the anti-Hamashiach. Now, we use it with ChatGPT. In fact, you are probably using AI now. AI is probably listening to the Zoom call now, recording information. According to Zoom's latest rules and guidelines 10.4, that says it gives them permission to use artificial intelligence to record our conversations. Now, general AI, it mimics human thought. This is where things get sinister. Your thoughts, your language, all of these things. And this is what's happening when they're collecting data on you through your iPhones. Biometrics. Now there's surveillance cameras everywhere. Now you put a picture up of anybody on Facebook, it will scan and tell you who they are, particularly if they're your friend. This is when things get tricky. I used to watch Star Trek growing up. Mr. Spock, Captain. We used to watch those, and they used to beam me up, Scotty, and they would teleport them into a whole different geography. Folks, that's possible with AI. The technology exists. We'll say, Dr. Howard, what I'm using really as a euphemism, I'm using technology interchangeably, I haven't got there yet, with the spiritual world, with demonic activity. All right? And not just demonic activity, but also divine as well. We got to bring a delineation between the two. Many of you remember where, was it Philip? Philip with the Ethiopian eunuch in Acts. And as he immersed him, he was immediately, sorry, Kimmy, I had to mute you. He was immediately transported to a whole different geography. We're going to see more of that, but it's going to be guys under the term artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence. So we even saw Google's this new Deep Mind. So they're working with clinicians and researchers and patients, and they're working with them, the healthcare system, to provide these algorithms and neural networks to mimic the human brain. They're doing it right now. So technology in and of itself is not evil, but it's the misappropriation or the misuse of technology that can be sinister and evil. Because if we're saying that's why we got to bring a differentiation between specific versus general AI. Because if AI is sinister, we all need to repent. We all are involved. We have transgressed the Most High. We need to just go live in a monastic lifestyle and practice asceticism, which means just we minimize any what we call fundamentalists, right? Much like the Amish people do. They don't care about the modern technology. They don't consider the culture. But I'm saying we got to be careful because it's ushering in something more powerful that you and I can't imagine, right? So AI, as we talked about, it can be leveraged for evil purposes, but also potential good. But we need to wisely leverage technology for good and ask the Ruach of Yahuwah to help guide us. Because as we develop we're going to see that artificial intelligence really is not just demonic, but it's also divine. What you talking about, Willis? It's just how you use it. What the supernatural phenomenon that happened in biblical days is what we call AI today, by and large, not in all cases, but by and large. And I'm going to show you that through language, through biblical narratives, etc. We'll see that. So we see this authentic, really, relationship that's formed through technology. Here's what the problem is that I think it hinders and it hampers and stymies, if you ask Melek Moshe, if you ask me, I think it stymies our social connectivity with people. I really think that it's replacing human relationships. And that's the issue, because Yahuwah is relational. He wants to commune with his people. But there's something called the God of AI. And we'll look at that, which basically AI becomes God. Remember, the Antichrist is just like Yahuwah or mimics Yahuwah. We read that in Revelation, and hopefully we'll get to that again. All right, so that's why I caution you all about these avatars. I caution you all, be very, very careful with these avatars. Be very careful with these avatars. Well, better not say that. But be very selective, because I know many of you have avatars. You say, well, what avatars I got to do? I ain't got nothing to do with it. It just looked like me, and I just want something in my image. And I think initially it's innocuous. I think it's innocent. But things are going to, it's luring you in. This is the bait that lures you in to make you want more. And then it usher you into this metaverse reality. And now it becomes addictive. And what happens is, I think many of you love Yahuwah. You know what is right to do. But what happens when you are now fighting an addiction? And now this is why Mashiach said, love thou me more than these. Because now with your heart, your mouth says one thing, but your heart is in another place. So let's be careful with this artificial intelligence, everyone. Because now we see that relationships is basically through social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And what happens, it doesn't augment authentic social skills. And I believe social skills is at the heart of Torah. It's at the heart. So it's very convenient to text, very convenient to DM people, to use WhatsApp. It's very convenient to do that. But I believe when you become dependent on it, I think it works against the culture and Torah, not with it. So we got to be very careful with that. All right. So we looked at why artificial intelligence is a concern or is a marker of the Antichrist. I think we looked some deeper into that. We looked at AI as AI and faith. This is out of Seattle, Washington, I believe. And they recently formed AI and faith. And basically, I think I had maybe I don't. All right. But anyways, it's a interfaith community, basically. And remember, it's mixing the religious convictions with AI, life affirming. People are not going to need the Bible. They're not going to need the inspiration because AI is going to do it. In fact, they got an AI church where a robot or a simulator do all the preaching and preach better than Jake's. So we got to be careful, because people are going to now have no use or need of the traditional sense of the God of the Bible and the Bible altogether. AI is currently have a Bible and working on a Bible that's going to lead people through every step in life. So the question is, can AI really be the Antichrist? And I think last week we talked about that, and we talked about that, Dr. Howard is going to be a physical person, or would it be a humanoid? I told you all that what I deduce and what I infer from the text, from the biblical text, and looking deeply and studying, at least scrupulously, studying AI, that I believe is going to be a humanoid. So I believe it's going to be a system, and it is a system, but take on human-like features because it's the image of the beast. Now, he said, Dr. Howard, what is the beast? The beast is humans. What you talking about, Willis? And I'm going to show that to you as well. So it must take on this anthropomorphic likeness, but yet be a computer system or artificial intelligence, right? So it's humanoids. And that's all humans, demons or legions of demons we see in the Bible is, from, in a large part, many of them were humanoids. They needed something as a host or somebody as a host, whether it's zoology, animals, whether it's anthropology, humans, it needed to take, or whether geophysics, nature, it needed to take on a likeness. So this is why HARP, many of you probably heard of HARP. HARP controls the weather. Using technology to make it rain if we want it to. So many people call it global warming or et cetera, but HARP is a organization that interferes with the weather patterns, and they can predict the weather patterns. They have developed technology to control the weather pattern. So is it the Antichrist? I think that is something to look at. Okay, that's something to look at. All right, is the Antichrist really a humanoid? That's something to look at. So we know 1 John chapter 2 says, who is a liar? It is whoever denies Yahushua HaMashiach, such person as the Antichrist, denying the Father and the Son. So the enemies of our souls is not a creator, it's an emulator. So all AI does is emulate human characteristics. The same way that demons, powers that be, principalities, they mimic human. In fact, you even have the angels, the Malachim are in awe of you. You got supernatural forces studying your proclivities, studying your behavior patterns, studying your diet habits, studying everything. I was watching a couple months ago Men in Black, and was looking at these extraterrestrial beings, and they had to invade. They looked just like humans, but they were walking around until Will Smith and the other guy, I forget his name, the actor, until they were able to identify that these are, in fact, these extraterrestrial beings that have taken up residence in biology, in human biology. These movies are predicting and telling you what's going to happen. And it's vicious. Well, it's vicious. So the AI is an emulator. It's not a creator. The Most High is a creator, but it emulates. And that's the system. The system of the Antichrist emulates. This is why Eve is told, hey, if you eat of this, you're going to be just like the Most High. Not be the Most High, but be like the Most High. This emulation, it emulates. And that's the pattern that you're going to see, right? That's the pattern. So we'd also know it's going to be implemented in our brains. We talked a little bit about synapses, and it's going to be implemented in our brain. It's going to tell when you control your weeping. It's going to, if you need a breakthrough and you need to feel good, you need inspiration, it's going to feed all of that into the membranes, all into your synapses. That's going to be firing off. And they got technology already for that. That's what happens when these video games, you put on these goggles, they take you into this metaverse, they take you into this world that everything, well, all of your natural desires and your basic needs and your existential realities are met. You can get food because it's going to fire away. You can get all of your nourishment, sex, affirmation, all of your desires would be in a virtual reality. And they're just getting started. Okay, take a look at 2 Thessalonians. Says, who opposed and exalted himself above all that is called of Yahuwah, or is that worship, so that he as Yahuwah sit in the temple, showing himself that he is Yahuwah. So this antichrist, anti-Hamashiach, pardon me, everybody, has to be one who emulates the Most High, that he showed himself to be the Most High himself. There is a system that's going to meet everybody's needs. It's going to be all-knowing. Wait a minute, I thought the Most High was all-knowing. I'm going to show you momentarily where in Daniel it says we're going to increase in knowledge. And I'm going to show you how we increase. In fact, I want you to put into the chat now that now we are increasing, like for instance, in 1900, it said that we were increasing knowledge every 100 years. Pardon me, in 1945, it said that we will increase in knowledge every 25 years. But today, we have increased in knowledge. What is the time frame in which we increase in knowledge? I'll come back to that momentarily, but put it in the chat right now and tell me we are increasing in knowledge. What is the time span now that we are increasing in knowledge? So the scriptures is correct, right? The scriptures is correct. Many of you may know these two people. You all know the person on the left is the co-founder of Elon Musk. And then we see on the other side, the right side, Steve Wozniak. He's a co-founder of Apple. And they know what's coming. That's why they're calling for a moratorium. They're calling for, hey, let's not advance so quickly in AI, that they know what's coming. They are shaking in their boots. They have discovered some things that beyond Area 51 and Las Vegas, everyone, they've been working on things for years. I believe they have contact with demonic activity. And it's being, again, demonic activity must take a host. And that host must be consistent with anthropological makeup. It must take on human characteristics. That's why it is the image of the beast. Image is the key word. Image of the beast. So that's why you see Elon Musk said there should be a pause. All right. So I talked about, went the wrong way. So why should we especially be concerned with the influences of future developments? Well, I think we need to, for a lot of reasons. I won't get into chat, GPT or anything of that nature, but AI is artificial, but it's also man-made. And scientists and wealthy people are working on, as we said before, synapses. And this is basically technology in our bodies that use synapses. And synapses is really an electrical configurations, for lack of terms, that is mapped out through the body. And this is that when the brain tells the body how to move, and it influences you neurology in a neurological way. It influences you chemically. These are the synapses of how the brain interprets things and how we develop. All right, and we see it here. All right, this is what we call 2045 initiative funded by the Russian billionaire that you see here. And of course, he's using nanotechnology, and it interweaves in our brain, and it gives us this cybernetic immortality. So while you are dead, it's really keeping you alive because of technology. This is so sinister, everyone. It's interfering with the natural developments of the Most High. And it's trying to take the place of the Most High. That's what the Antichrist system do. It's an emulator. We just read that. It wants to be just like the Most High. It want to be omniscient, which is all knowing. All knowing. It want to be omnipresent. There's nowhere you're going to be able to go that AI won't have a surveillance on you. It's all seeing, all knowing, and it wants to be omnipotent. It want to be all powerful. It is the mark. So we know that Yahushua said in the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. And that's why we got to look at Anunnakis and look at the giants and how the giants or Anunnakium are they going to return and how would they look like. All right. I believe if we buckle our seatbelts, we are in for a ride. We better hold on to Torah, not just in practice, but and just not in scope, but in principle and lifestyle as well. Okay. Pardon me, get a drink here. So we got to make sure that we're not deceived as things become increased with time. We looked at George Orwell, and we looked at, remember that 1984, the book 1984. He predicts that these things are going to happen through the government, that the government is behind all of this mass surveillance. And it was 1984. This is a new world order. We got things, calculating our moves, our everything that sends. It knows when we are sexually motivated. It knows how many steps we took. It knows what your heart beat is, what your pulse rate is. It knows everything, what your blood pressure is, and it shoots it out to computers. Changing algorithms, changing formulas. This is the development of AI. That's why we got to look, cryptocurrencies. Everything is being digitized. Everything. That's why we won't be able to tell the difference between this meta world, this metaverse, this virtual reality, and what reality is. That's why anybody can be easily deceived. And if we don't begin to prepare now, and I'm not saying don't use AI, but use it at a minimum. But when we get deep into this here, it's sinister, everyone. And that's why it changes how we see the world. This is why the Brit Hadashah says, and the gods of this world have did what? Blinded the minds, not the eyes, because you don't see with your eyes, you really see with your mind. Blinded the minds of those who will be deceived. So we look at Elon Musk, and he has a lot of quotes. I won't go into all of them, but he said transport would be one of the first to go fully autonomous. But when I say everything, the robots will be able to do everything bar nothing. So in Detroit, we have something called not the people mover, but we have these trolleys, and they run. You don't need. They're not ran by human. All right, they ran all by technology. All by technology. And so we're headed there, all right? So he had comments on that. He had comments on that is really going to really augment World War III, the competition for AI and superiority, that man will destroy himself. He said, of course, AI is much more dangerous in North Korea, and the list goes on. So we have you say what you want to say about Elon Musk. Some people love him, some people hate him, etc. But what he's saying about technology, particularly artificial intelligence, has some veracity. He said the bot will move so fast that you'll need a strobe of light to see it. That's crazy. That moves at the speed of light? He said, we all dead. That's crazy. Hugh Hare, dealing with biometrics, and you see the prosthetic legs, he lost both of his legs, and an incident where he had, I think it was a mountain climbing incident, he got frostbite in his legs, lost it. But he said, in the future, each human being will have a choice of many bionic interventions that can apply to enhance their cognition, emotions, and physical experiences. So phenotypically, technology can replace, people say, well, that's good. but it's so sinister because it is paving the way for the anti-Christ, the anti-Hamashiach system to come in. Many of you, we talked about the hippocampus. So hippocampus is in your brain, obviously, and this is dealing with prosthetic research. And they said basically that they're going to put medical devices in your brain. And I don't know if you can see this here, this little, this thing in your brain. And Neuralink is working with that as well. So they put it in your brain, and basically it's going to help people who are amputees, or there are individuals who need prosthesis, and et cetera. And so it's a coin size, so you can see a computer implant. That's Neuralink. Neuralink. And I believe this is going to be also to usher in the Antichrist system as well. It's a system. So the Antichrist may or may not be one person, as it is a system of humanoids, a system of computer, and that takes on the likeness, because the Antichrist has to have the mark, or the beast has to have the image of humans. It has to have the image. So again, technology in and of itself is not evil. It's just how it's used. We talked a little bit about these high-tech tattoos, and we talked a little bit about that. And again, all of this is a counterfeit image, right? It's to get us to worship a counterfeit system. Counterfeit system. And this is why John saw a vision, and he said, I saw, they tuck it in their hands, and mark in their hand, and I saw this in their foreheads. And well, that would make sense if we're looking at this Neuralink, this that they put this in your hippocampus in your brain, and then they put, of course, this high-tech tattoos. It's metallic tattoos that's developed by Duoskin. Duoskin. And you can control everything your whole life based on these tattoos on your right arm. This is technology. They have, MIT, they were working on 20 years ago. Now it's a reality. Think about it. All your tickets, you want to go to concerts, you want to go to basketball games, your bank account purchases, etc. All done through that. All done through that. All right. So I talked a little bit about Moderna and all those themes, ID 2020, but we won't talk about the vaccinations right now. But according to Revelation, which says, of course, it said it causes all. It causes all. It causes all. It. IT, not a pronoun, he or she, but it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead. This was a vision that John saw. No one can buy and sell unless he has the mark. Well, artificial intelligence may do that. Now, I believe this has a dual meaning, because buy and sell in many of the biblical texts means that you buy and sell the truth. But I believe that, again, we'll talk about that momentarily when we get to Revelation chapter 14. But no one can buy or sell unless they have the mark. That is the name of the beast, or the image of the beast, or the number of his name. Or the number of his name. Keep that in mind, because it's going to be crucially important. All right, so we talked a little bit about that Neuralink inside of your brain and exactly what it does, right? It is sinister. Anybody ever heard of a Nuremberg code, the Nuremberg Code? I don't know if I put it on here. I probably didn't. I did. No, I didn't. But the Nuremberg Code, and Nuremberg Code is really directives of human experimentation. It experiment on humans to see. It don't give you a power of choice, right? And we're supposed to have a power of choice. It's what happened with the Tuskegee Airmen, et cetera. Right now, they're experimenting on you. They put in your food supply. They put it in your water supply. It's in chemtrails over certain communities, right? And see, they're studying your behavior patterns. This is the Nuremberg directives of human experimentation. And it's happening right before our eyes. So we talked about the Internet of Things, that everything is connected to the internet. Everything. This is technology, technological advances. And many people won't remain faithful to Torah. Many people are going to fall. It's going to be a great falling away, folks. Look around, because 2 in every 5 people who claim to be Torah observant is going to give in to the mark of the beast. And this is something because it's going to make our lives so convenient. Right? So I think we got to be careful when it comes to that. So number says the number is his name. The number is his name. Now, I believe this is crucial because everything is going to have a barcode and all of things. But according to Revelation chapter 13, the mark of the beast, and many people read it 666. Some people read it 616. And we look at how the carbon atom, in terms of how man is made from. And we made on the 6th day, right? Yahuwah made us on the 6th day. And we have 6 protons, 6 electrons, and 6 neutrons. That's pretty fair, right? And so people say, well, could this be the mark of man? And the mark of the man is the mark of the beast. It's just saying that the scripture is telling us it's going to be a humanoid. Now, I don't want to get technical with you all and get deep with you all concerning this here. That's not my objective to do that. But I do, when you look in terms of the Greek, and I know there's a little Greek, but when you look at the chi, alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi, omicron, pi, rho, chi, sigma, tau, upsilon, right? Omega. When you look at it, the chi, the xi, and the sigma, that's the Greek numerical value for 666. So if you take the 22nd letter, the 14th letter, and you add the obsolete to that, you're going to get an intermediate between the 5th and the 6th. So the Greek letter, people say, well, it's Chi, which is Christ. That's where your boy Constantinus saw the Chi rho. So it's Christ, and then the Xi, the cross, and then Sigma, which is a puncture, a wounds in his hand, etc. Right? So that's kind of that whole, again, emulation, as we talked about before. We also know that Yahusha was, according to the Brit Hadashah, said he was numbered with transgression in the place called Golgotha, which means a place of skull or cranium. In fact, is it Mark or Matthew that talks about it's being interpreted the place of skull? Now, I believe that numbering and reckoning is this estimation is still going on in the mind, right? So this is the mind, and it's dealing with the issues of the mind. So the number of 7 stood for wholeness, it stood for completeness, and many of you know that, right? And so to be called a 666 was, in biblical days, it was insulting. It was implying that you are some sort of being. When you look in Greek, the Greek form is the name we talked about last week of the Emperor Nero Caesar. And so he was a Roman emperor, and around the time of the writing, because we also got to look at the historical cultural context of Revelation 13, Revelation chapter 14, and we know that the letters, the numerical value is 666. Well, the number symbolizes this repressive Roman polity, this Roman empire that really personify what? Beastly emperor. That this is going to be someone who has a beastly nature, who has absolute power. So we got to see the scriptures through those lenses. And I'm peeking too early, but let me go back to my slides. Right? I just like to look at you all every now and then. All right, let's go back to these slides here to show you. All right, so we know the image. This image is going to be important. We're going to look at, and our time is gone now, but we're going to look at the image and what this image is. How can this image, Dr. Howard, you said this image is synonymous with artificial intelligence? That's absolutely, positively, unequivocally, without question, with no ambiguity. That's exactly what I'm saying. That this is all culminated. I'm not talking about, oh, it's QR codes. I remember the people say QR, or it's, it's these barcodes when you go into grocery stores. I remember a generation said that. Some people said it was a Smurfs, you name it. Every generation will come up with something. No, it's when you get this, vax, when you get the vaccination shot for C19, everybody has had some hypothesis in terms of what it is. And it has all fallen shy. We have been every generation we've been proven to be false prophets. This is conclusive, because this is with scholarship, and it adds, and the more we develop traction, you're gonna say, okay, Dr. Howard this is not something that is, this is not conjecture. So AI is going to evolve to the point where it was going to know more on an intellectual level than any human beings for the next 10 to 20, 30 years. More than the entire population on Earth. And that's exactly what happened with iRobot. You all remember the movie? That's exactly what happened. They begin to develop a mind of their why, because it's going to be engineered and it's going to open up portals, according to Revelation chapter 9, open up portals, have a key to open up demonic activity, where now demonic activity now, because it has to take on a human likeness, it has to have a host. And again, it doesn't have to be the host itself, but it can emulate a host. And that's why it mimics, as we saw in the video, a dog, or mimics a human, because they have to be filtered through a host. So this is spiritual manipulation. That's what the kingdom of darkness do. They find a way to manipulate themselves into the system, look for loopholes within the systems of the spiritual laws in order to invade our spaces, to influence the will, the word, and the wisdom of the Most High. That's Daniel chapter 7, verse 25, all over again. This is an all-powerful, folks, systems that is diabolical. And I believe that it's inherent incompleteness of humans, just like the scripture promised, that is really going to be the ultimate redemption from the original sin. Technology is going to promise redemption. It's going to promise you some sort of salvation. Digital redemption, according to Ray Kurzweil, digital redemption will come upon us in the form of a super intellect machine intervention. Chips to implant in our brains and hard disks to upload our consciousness. This is from a futurist, Ray Kurzweil. It's going to infect our consciousness. And that's why the Brit Hadashah says that our consciousness is seared with a hot iron. So I believe that Hasatan, he and his darkness and his principalities and this system is going to fool the world. The Antichrist system is going to lead this artificial intelligence. It's going to give reign to the ultimate AI systems that's going to reign over all AI systems. So I think we need to ask some questions as we develop. What does the Bible, maybe next time, what the Bible say about artificial intelligence? Because we haven't got to that yet. Why are some technological experts sounding the alarm? Why are they warning us against it? We see people like Elon Musk, Steve Wozniak. They all are warning us about this here. How can artificial intelligence fulfill Bible prophecy? So again, we need to look at it through relevant biblical passages, theological interpretation, and ethical reflections. And hopefully we'll be able to do that. Because I want you to get this. So whether we are a person, again, just wait, let me show this and I'll be done, okay? Because the Bible says, what the Bible says about artificial intelligence as a way of introduction. I'm going to show you these random people. I want to show you the random people. Let me see if I can get that. Here are these random people. Let's look at them. So yeah, these people, yeah, they took a few photos of people. All of these people are not real. They were created by generated by artificial intelligence. You can't tell me that no one on this picture looks real. They all look real. This was created by a company called Midjourney. It all look real. Look how many people. You can't tell these are people that were created. Artificial intelligence. This is artwork. This is why you won't be able to tell whether it's a system, because these systems take on through Neuralink, through other artificial technological advances. Midjourney is going to look just like humans because the beast must take on the image of humans. Why? So that these hosts of demonic powers and darkness and principality, they now can invade these humanoids, half human and half technological. And maybe I need to show you throughout the scriptures how there's a spiritual law in terms of what these demonic activities can take residence in. Okay, and it's been, Hollywood been showing you that. What is the name? And I used to like that movie of a woman who somehow she swallowed this substance and she became one with the computer. Somebody can put that in the chat. I forget the name of that movie. But this is all synonymous to what's going to happen. It's predictive programming. It can have an image of any person, even famous people. Watch this. Famous people. Look at that. Famous people. Now you would think these are real. Obviously that looked kind of, but it's supposed to be Will Smith, Oprah Winfrey, you name it. Got these celebrities. They look so real. You really got to examine the pictures to see if it's really them. You can be easy be fooled and think this is Obama, this is Messi, Lionel Messi, or this is Angelina Jolie. It's easy to think that these are these people. Think about it if they wanted to frame Melek Moshe. They could easily put an image of me in a nightclub, and all the Hebrew community would go hysterical and a frenzy. I knew it. I knew about Dr. Howard. I knew it. You got to be careful and be able to discern the difference between all of this here. Because that's why the powers that be come to blind the minds of those who are lost. If you don't accurately and acutely have keen discernment and accurately discern, you can easily believe the sensationalism and the propaganda of the powers that be, particularly in media or in popular culture. These images look real. You gotta look close, particularly these here. But they were all created by AI. And it doesn't stop there. We, Chat GPT and you name it, right? You name it. They even have, what's the name of a chess player? Carson, something like that. But he was the world best chess player, and he lost to artificial AI chess player. This stuff, folks, is sinister. It even can make you look younger or make you look older. So the Bible is pretty accurate, right? Because the Bible mentioned, in Daniel chapter 12, verse 4, it says, Daniel shut up these words and sealed the book until the time of the end. Many will roam to and fro, and knowledge will increase. We are living now in a world where knowledge has exponentially increased in an astronomical way. It's estimated, I guess you ought to put it in the chat, that in 1900s, the knowledge will increase by every 100 years. In 1945, it says knowledge will increase every 25 years. But today, let me see some of your responses. Some people said 5. Some people didn't say anything at all. Let's check what people are saying. Somebody said 30 days. All right. So you were absolutely, you're very close. All right. You're very close if you said 30 days. All right. But let's look at this. All right. So in 1900, it says knowledge will increase every 100 years. 1945, it's going to increase every 25 years. Today, knowledge is increasing every 12 hours. And the Bible says, the scripture says that knowledge shall increase. This is beyond our wildest imagination, Mishpahah. These stats, I believe, are fascinating. And we're living in the midst of this information. This is where Shaul says we are ever learning, but we're never coming to the knowledge of the truth. We got the explosion of knowledge and information that one would expect that people will be more wiser and will have a better chance of knowing the truth, coming to the knowledge of the truth. Yet, we have seen the rise of fake news, lies, false doctrines. And although we live in an ocean of information, most of us don't even know the basic truth of Torah. We're in trouble. We're in trouble. And so I think I'm going to end here. I have about 1,000,002 more slides. But again, we're not in a rush. We have all the time we need. Just keep in mind that next week, we are going to deal with this topic. And this topic is, should my family celebrate Thanksgiving? So why don't you call your mother over, call Pookie and Ray Ray over, call your in-laws over. Let's have a conversation before the holiday, before Thanksgiving. Let's have a conversation. Let's add some historical facts. Let's look at some spiritual and ecclesiastical facts. Let's look at the root of words. Let's look at the etymological meaning of words. Let's dig deeper into this here. And good old Black folk, we deal with mistrinsic identification, and we deal with cultural psychosis. So, hey, St. Patrick's Day, yes, let me put on all green and look at charms. We celebrate everybody else's holidays, but what the Most High gave us, we ignore. This is a prime example of giving into the ways of the nation. Many of us try to do both. I don't want to give it away because I want people to tune in to get the knowledge, but if you can't have one conviction, but also practice a conviction that is diametrically opposed to the initial one. In fact, that was the issue that Hamashiach, Messiah, had with the Pharisees. He said, hey, when they talk, listen to them. They know Torah. They sit in the seat of Moses. He said, but don't do as they do because they're hypocrites. And when we are involved in this type of dichotomy, it hurts us and future generations. Either we're going to be cold or hot, but if we're lukewarm, that's not something desirable with the Most High. So we're going to talk about the truth of Thanksgiving. The truth of Thanksgiving. We try to add some things every year. We're going to expose the lies and unveiling the truth. So we're going to do it just days before Thanksgiving, and hopefully you can tune in with you and your family and tune in. Then following that, we're going to come back and deal with part 3. We'll deal with part 3 on the 25th. On the 25th. So again, just want to remind you all, if you would like to give to Awake the Nations, please do so. We have some gargantuous plans on the horizon. We got some things that we want to do that really is going to bring truth to the nations, and to separate the wheat from the chaff, truth from misconception. That is our objective. We also want you all to keep us in your prayers as we prepare for the Hebrew voyage, the royal wedding, and the mission trip to the Bahamas. So we're still shy of our budget. So if you would like to help us engage into missiology and taking care of the basic needs of those who are vulnerable while sharing the great news, sharing biblical heritage, repentance, which is going back to Torah, and the Besorah, that includes the Messiah. We'll be doing that in the Bahamas. And so please make your way to our website, or you can give at Great Awake INT, Cash App, or PayPal. Great Awake INT, which is abbreviated for international, but Great Awake INT. So keep that in mind. Also, our land development, so our community development. So we do have a potential land, and we're trying to purchase this land before it is sold. So your giving will help us immensely. Please go to our website, and you should be able to give to our land that will go particularly specifically to that particular account to help us with the land. Probably in 2 weeks, we're going to have this this gauges reader meter, so you can know what money's in real time that is coming in for this land. And this land is a 420 plus acres. Again, it's our goal to get it. If we don't get this land, we're looking at monies coming in by a comparable land, but it's our heart's desire. It's with this particular land. That's why it's a sense of urgency. So we pray that the Most High will continue to bless your hearts. We have our second meeting this week concerning going to Africa. Hopefully, sometime the latter part of this month, we're looking to bring all of those who went to the website who inquired about going, and it fits your budget. So it's our goal at this time to go to Kisii, Kenya, and then to go to Swazi, Zambia, and then go to Accra, Ghana. So that is our goal. That is our plan. Please, Mishpaha, if you are interested, please, you may want to inquire and be a part of our meetings next summer, 2024. It's our goal to go to Africa. All right, let's take some questions. It's now, we've been on it at 2 hours from now. That is good time for Dr. Howard, Melek Moshe. All right, so any questions? Let's take some questions or some dialogue. Maybe we'll leave those in YouTube and Facebook up just momentarily. We'll leave them up just for a couple minutes, and then we will go off and we'll have any personal conversations. We'll have them on Zoom. All right, so any questions or anyone have something to share? I agree. Sinister dehumanization of humanity. This is dehumanization. This is artificial intelligent genocide. This is genocidal. It has genocidal tendencies. This is about extermination of the people, particularly melanated people. That's a conversation we'll have as well. That's right. Go to sleep and wake up outdated. Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of the Rip Van Winkle, for those who heard of Rip Van Winkle. So Rip Van Winkle went to a mountain to go to sleep. And on his way up, he saw a picture of King George II of England. But he went and slept for 20 years. When he came back down, it was a picture of George Washington. And what happened is, as he's asleep, a revolution was taking place. While we are asleep, a revolution is taking place. And every 12 hours, knowledge is increasing. There's a pro and a con to that. Here's the pro. You are left without an excuse. It's not that we don't have access to information. It's just our people don't want to hear it. We develop this ambivalence. We become visceral. We become reticent. We become like, we're only concerned with the bag or food on our table. So we are easily deceived. And we depend on this artificial intelligence to lead the way. All right, I don't think there's any questions, any comments or any questions. Anybody on Zoom have a comment, question? Okay. All praises be to the Most High Yah. Yes, Neshama, shalom, shalom.
Shalom, Dr. Howard, Melek Moshe. It's a blessing to see you on this evening. I am doing double duty, so I want to make sure I understood you clearly. So when you were talking about the mark of the beast and the AI and the avatars, where you were putting them all together as that is how the beast has its power, is through perhaps an avatar like being. That would be how all of us, if not all of us, because I ain't doing it, but all of those who fall for it will be those that kind of get trapped into the virtual reality aspect of living, where they do create all the systems that would have to flow through that false being, which is kind of, so that I see you shaking your head. So it's interesting because it goes back to what they've already done in one respect with the United States in particular being both the corporate part of the United States and then the real you. And so it's just an improvement for lack of it. I hate to say improvement, but it's an improvement on their plan or a more diabolical layer to their wickedness. And so now the question is, will we give our image that Yah gave us to the beast on purpose to be subjected to their system? I'm making sure I understood you.
Yes.
If you can, okay.
You have, congratulations, you have rewritten the school song. You have said in 30 seconds what I've been trying to say in 2 hours. That is very profound and very simplistic, and you have really driven it home. Let me add to that, Neshama. Because the biometrics is what we call it, and they understand they already have an image of you. That's why they can create these avatars, and we willfully play into that as well. This is why the Antichrist system is going to be almost like a modern day prophet. They can read your mail because they already understood your proclivities. They know your instincts. They know your dietary habits. They know your behavior patterns. They know your sexual drives. They know everything about you. They know what you have a proclivity for. One of the biggest mistakes I have made, and hear me good, and this is not condemnation on anyone else. This is about Melek Moshe. This is about just what I'm saying. I was so gung-ho about and really excited about getting my DNA because it just wanted that, been teaching for years, and you're the people of the book, Bantus Negroes, and E1, B1A, and the haploid groups, and STR, short tandem repeats, and short nucleotide patterns, SNPs, and we the people. And so I took a DNA test with 23andMe, and I had this gut feeling that maybe I should be doing that. But hey, everybody else, mimetic aspirations lead to anesthetizing conformities. Everybody else in the community is doing it. Let me do it. And I said, and they have these statements, which is so manipulative that they will not give out your DNA information. About a month ago, I received an email from 23andMe saying that their system was breached and that my DNA composites may have been compromised. Knew it was coming. This is a game. So now they have their DNA. It's all they need, particularly when we talk about cloning. They can easily clone. I'm going to show you some videos using humanoids. They look just like people, talk like them, mimic like them, but they're part bionic. They have these prostheses and other, the Neuralink coin that they are half human. Now they can be invaded with this demonic activity because now there's a host now for them to abide in. And so, they understand our proclivity. They understand who we are. They understand our drives for certain things, our natural tendencies that we have. Yeah, this is the biggest warfare of our lives. And we're going to need the help of Yahuwah to help us overcome this. We have been deceived by the entire world, or the whole world has been deceived, rather, by Hasatan. But well said, Koti, well said. Let's see, someone else had a question. Someone said, Dr. Howard, I wanted to know your opinion on AI being an ancient principality. I believe it's a principality of the accursed. Absolutely. So yeah, AI, absolutely. I believe that this is why now they're finding technology that was used in Egypt. For instance, I believe that the pyramids, The pyramids, obviously, by the Watchers. I believe the Watchers is this artificial intelligence as well. I believe machinery and what we call technology is synonymous to what the Bible call supernatural phenomena. Supernatural phenomena. And so it's all in the language itself. So I do believe that principalities of accursed things, I do believe that. I believe that it's tied to AI as well. I do, or I believe that it has leveraged AI and use AI as AI takes on humanoid anthropological features in order to manipulate systems. In Joshua chapter 7, they had accursed things amongst them, which caused their to defeat and kindled the Most High's anger. I personally see AI technology as akin to the Ouija board of accursed things that is a medium. So they use mediums. Again, this is altering the scale of consciousness. All demonic beings need a medium. This is why we're talking about shamanism. Shamanism is so important, and that's why it's on the rise in our community. For instance, when you look at Lion King, shamanism, where Mufasa comes back and talks to Simba through the clouds, or in what do you call it, Black Panther, where he takes something and it takes him to this illusion where now he's talking to his ancestors, or a Moana, or a Mulan, and the list goes on and on and on and on, where it altered the scales of consciousness. So Ouija board as well. I mean, all this has been setting up. Again, if we're reading it now, that means it was already been developed 5 years ago. We're late to the game. They show the mask is bizarre and definitely Santana. Yeah, the mask as well. Yeah, the mask. With that as well. He put on the mask and he takes on various personalities, etc. Yeah. I was glad you mentioned DNA. Yeah, we haven't even got to DNA. DNA and 23andMe, there's a lot we need to talk about that. I would not encourage anyone else to get a DNA test. Either you Israel, or you're not, either you cleave or you're not. What they're going to be doing with your DNA composites is it's pretty nefarious. And I think because we are so nebulous and we don't know certain things, it's innocuous, it's innocent. So when people ask me, Dr. Howard, should I go to African Ancestry as 23andMe? I wouldn't encourage anyone, but if they had to, it would be African Ancestry. But it's only a matter of time before that system is breached as well. No problem, DD. Can I get DNA through our medical records? Yeah, they sure can. Through our medical records as well. These doctors are paid. Again, it's a system. It's a healthcare system, and they are working on things now. Let's show this here. Yeah, somebody mentioned African Ancestry. It's only a matter of time before African Ancestry is breached as well. So I'm going to show the Shama has put into here this here, and I want to show everybody 23andMe sell anonymous DNA data to drug company for $20 million. There it is. Before, they sent me an email saying that it would breach. That was just like a month, maybe September. Now, here it is in November, they're selling it. Look at there. Look at there. Yep. Yoshama?
Yes, sir.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
You got your hand up?
That was actually, I think Yehoshua has her hand up.
Yehoshua, I'm sorry. Yehoshua. Shalom, shalom.
I had a few things. When we're talking about the DNA thing. I watch a lot of true crime shows, and that was one of the things that alarmed me is that they are now when once thought it was private, it was just your private information. The police can now go in and get that information from these companies. They're allowed to get it now, and there's nothing that you can do, even though, like you said, it was supposed to be private, just something, a service for you to find out things, but they've been using it to solve cold cases. And yeah, in one way it seems okay, great, this is a great tool, but this was supposed to be, private. I should not have to, it should have the same rules as like my fingerprints or anything like that. But more and more, the government is taking away your ability to be able to choose how you want to function or live. There was a couple of things that you had we were talking about VR. I wrote a couple of notes. I was like, how can we grow in Yah if we allow ourselves to be enchanted by the things of this world? So you were talking about how people can get addicted to that stuff. I'm working with people and they're like, oh, hold on, I got to grow this farm real quick, and you sit up there and you live in that fantasy world, and it changes your mind and how you think and how you receive things, in that fantasy world. You're able to correct things quickly, and then when you're out in the real world and stuff just keeps crumbling no matter how much you try, then you end up with people committing suicide or turning their backs on Yah because he's not working for me anymore. He's not. Why did he allow this to happen? And I see that in I work in EMS, so everybody's like, oh, Christmas, the most wonderful time of the year. I'm like, this is the worst time of the year. Are you kidding me? This is the time of the year that people decide to take their lives over stupid mess. Oh, I can't buy my kids Christmas gifts. Let me give them a huge funeral bill instead. The stuff that people do during this time of year, it makes absolutely no sense at all. But these spiritual doors and windows are open for, Hasatan to come in and take over people and cause them to do things that they would not normally do any other time of the year. Yes, it is the spirit of Christmas, but that didn't come from Yah. And so these people are, they're vulnerable and they don't even know that they're about to get, broadsided. I do want to commend you on some of the information, even like from my background is medical. And so I know that a lot of this stuff has been researched, and I'm sitting here listening to it. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay. And then like you and Neshama bringing it down on a level where, anybody can understand it. I just want to, praise Yah, because not everybody can do that. People can, just because you know something don't mean you can teach it. Right. And I was thinking about the synapses, the part of the synapses. Your body, your brain is so smart. Yah is awesome. Your body will your brain will continue to, it's constantly adding new ties, that's the whole thing of synapses. It's lowering, it's making new making new connections and severing old ones constantly. So if you keep yourself in that VR world, you are severing the connections, the ties, the memories that you have of Yah and what he's done for you. And you're trading them for this man-made world that can do nothing for you, nothing good for you. And I was just sitting here and I was just thinking about that, thinking about those cyborg or AI people and everything. They're not of Yah. They weren't, they go against every principle of the Bible, everything. And so I can see how they could be antichrist. Why would they be for something that didn't even create them? I mean, he's not their creator. But yes, thank you so much. And I yield.
Yeah, I think Yahusha said it best. He said, "You are just like your father." So there's not such a thing called the brotherhood of man and the fatherhood of God. That's a lot. God isn't everybody's father, but that's a whole different conversation. Is when we look at reptilian, we'll talk about that a little later. Reptilians and not, etc. I think we're going to venture off and deal with some of that. But Yehoshua, I think you're absolutely correct. I think we have to, it's going to be very difficult to escape the wrath to come. The best thing we can do is live in community where we kind of minimize a lot of this artificial intelligence because it's really going to hit. When we talk about the day of Yahuwah and what's coming down, the pike and the pipeline is so sinister. We got to live in community. And that's why we're trying so feverishly to live in community together, where we need to distance ourselves from what's to come. We will have no teachings like this, conversations like this is pivotal. It is a vital necessity. We have it, and we're going to be without excuse. That's why more than ever before, we need to begin to live in community where we distance ourselves from this progressive state of artificial intelligence. And if not, I think that now, of course, we got the mark of Yah, and Yah is going to protect us. But I think we need to be in environments where we live in community so that, as Psalms Division 91, he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. We will say of Yahuwah, he is a strength and fortress. He is our El whom we should trust. Surely he shall deliver from the snare of the fowler, from the noisome pestilence. He should cover with his feathers, and his wings shall we trust. Right. So he goes on to say, of course, 1,000 fall at thy side, 10,000 right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. I talk about the arrow that fly by day, which is end time events, the destruction that wasted at noonday, particularly our children. If anything, we need to live in a community where our children get away from the American school system, which is diabolical. Our children are confused more than ever before in terms of gender. They're phenotypically, there's no distinction phenotypically. A man is a woman is a man, he, she, pronouns they're using that is, interchangeable. The curriculums they're teaching in school, the drag queens they're allowing to come to teach in school. Our children, if you have your children, like I have one, we're almost empty nesters in a public school system, there may be some consequences down the line and some traits that you will see in your children down the line that if it's not for the grace of the Most High, you're going to begin to see some manifestations. That's why it's so hard. We are voyeurs. We're not sadistic, but we are voyeurs. And what I mean by voyeurs is we know the problem and we just watch it unfold. and there's no initiative or sense of urgency on our behalf because we just watch the sadistic nature go on. And so, we're not sadists, as in that being sadistic, but we are voyeurs. So I pray that the Most High would rid us of this voyage mentality, where we no longer are voyeurs and watching what's going on. And it's, it's unfolding. But how can we, now I'm not saying fear mongering. I'm not saying that we should be advocates of fear. We got to move it. No, please. By all, just stay away, distance yourselves from people who's in panic mode and because they don't trust the Most High. But there is a preparation. We do need to be preparing now more than ever before. So Larry said, I got a call. Shalom, Larry. And my Milwaukee Mishpachah said, I got a call from a detective to help solve a cold case because of his DNA. Yeah. So that means they have our records. They have our records. Yeah, they can get access to our stuff. And it's technically illegal, but they can have access to it. Yeah, there is universal surveillance now. There's no crime that you're going to be able to commit that they don't have some surveillance on you. It is like 1984. Big Brother watching us. Yep, George Orwell, book 1984. One of his seminal piece of work that mentioned that. Absolutely. All right, Mishpachah. All right. I don't see any other questions on social media. Again, thank you so much for tuning in with Melek Moshe, Awake the Nations. Awake the Nations. I pray that you all would consider sowing into Awake the Nations so that we can really improve what we do. We like to hit the streets and do some very fun things, go live on the streets and get your feedback and do some very innovative and creative things to continue to awaken the lost sheep of Yasharel, to continue to reclaim our biblical heritage, to continue to face some of the falsehoods and the falsities of the compromising religious constructs like Christianity, to continue to undo all the lies that have been told to us throughout the centuries, and to be a faithful witness for Yahuwah, that we will not succumb to other set apart ones or other mighty ones, that we will serve Yahuwah and Yahuwah only. And so again, Awake the Nation's endeavor is to separate the wheat from the chaff, truth from misconception, truth from misconception. So for those who have been watching us on social media, we say Leila Tov, shalom, shalom to you all. Thanks for watching and engaging Awake the Nations with Melek Moshe, aka Dr. Howard. Shalom, shalom. For those who are on Zoom, if you want to stay on, if you want to continue to have a conversation, we will do that. Shalom, shalom.